Welcome. Call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. This meeting is being recorded using all technology and will be available on the city's YouTube channel. This is a special meeting, and special meetings do not typically include the topics citizens not on the agenda, but questions can be asked as long as they're related to the specific agenda item and at that time. So we'll move on to a roll call, and please state your name. Marion Wainwright.
Nick Wolf, Dan Wozniak, Mike here, Tom.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. This evening, the consent agenda consists just of approving the meeting agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Next up, we are going to review the bond sale results that occurred today, and Maggie Berger with Spear Financial is here to talk to us. Did we check the mic, Maggie? Did you? Oh, that was your picking on too. It's on.
Hello, everyone. I'm Maggie Berger with Spear Financial. We did conduct the bond sale from 10:30 to 11 a.m. this morning. We did take bids on $660,000 of general obligation corporate purpose bond series 2024. We did have two bidders, and I do want to point out that today's winning bidder was Northland Securities of Minneapolis, Minnesota at a 4.4909. So not to confuse things, but I looked back last year, we sold $1.3 million in May. We had two bidders, Northland Securities, D.A. Davidson, and D.A. Davidson was the winner. So these are our two bidders that we've seen the last couple of years for the city. Last year's interest rate was a 4.47. So interesting fact about that, it was a 4.47. Today it's 2 basis points higher, and we're 13 months beyond that. Plus, we had a 75 basis point increase in July of last year from the Federal Reserve. So we're pretty happy with where rates are trending right now. They're trending in that 4 to 4.5% range. And you know, in this case, just a little bit less than 4.5, but this is a pretty remarkable difference of only 2 basis points in that 12-month period with a pretty significant increase in the Federal Reserve interest rate. Those bids, Northland's bid is a 4.4% from maturity 2026 to 2031, 2032 to 2037 are at 4.5%. We did include the final debt service schedule, and just 1 year into that 4.5% interest rate would be the call feature. And that's at the time that the city would be able to call that debt in early and be able to pay that debt off and be able to pay down on that debt. And you would also be able to, at that point in time, refinance the debt if interest rates were lower for 0.5% remaining. With that being said, I would entertain any questions that you have, but we would definitely recommend today that you would award to Northland Securities of Minneapolis, Minnesota at the 4.4909%.
Which year was it that you say we could start paying off principal if we so chose to?
So it'd be after the June 1, 2032. So technically, you have to make the normal June 1, 2032 payment, then you'd be able to start paying ahead on that date as well. You have to make the regular payment on that date too. Yep.
Yes, that's the schedule right there.
Right there, yes, thanks, Cynthia. And I remind you, if you were to just pay ahead early, what we would do is we would pay from the bottom up, because obviously it's the furthest out maturity, so it's accruing the most interest because there's so much time remaining. It also has the highest interest rate, right? That 4.5% is the highest. So usually if you come to us and you say, you know, we don't have all, you know, $300,000 remaining, we've got 50,000 now, we would do and pay 50,000. That final maturity would be 20,000, and that would just shrink up those payments as you go.
Specific. A good rate compared to other cities our size as far as comparison.
It is. It's a very good rate. We were talking this morning that we had seen rates anywhere between about 4% and 5% in the market. We have to remember you did not have a rating today. Had you had a rating, it would have cost you $15,000, and we were fairly certain, and this proves it, that we really wouldn't have seen a difference. We wouldn't have been able to make up that $15,000 in these interest rates. These are really where we've been seeing the last few weeks. So I would say you have maybe about, 5 to 10 basis points higher than a rated deal, but for the $15,000, you can't make that up in 5 to 10 when it's only 660,000. Our threshold really, when we start to really look at whether a deal should be rated or not, is about $2 million. And so if it's under 2 million, we know there are 2 to 3 bidders out there that want to buy and will buy at about the same rate, maybe a slight higher, but not that we can justify $15,000 rating our cost of issuance. Would have just made you would have borrowed instead of 660, you would have probably borrowed 675,000. Right?
Any other questions for Maggie? I'll make a motion. Well, we'll move on to the resolution, item number 6. A motion to award. Need a second?
Second. Doesn't matter. Age before people.
Roll call, please. Tom, you want to start the roll call, please?
Aye. 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 Aye.
Mary, oh, aye. Sorry. Thank you. Moving on to item number 7. Yes, Maggie, thank you.
Thanks for having this special meeting, everybody.
Next up, number 7, Heartland Heights, several items for discussion here. Yeah. Shane Wicks.
Yeah, some punch list items, Lynn and I went out on Friday and the site was pretty good. They got, most of the minor punch list items taken care of. The major ones have got some grading to do. And they installed the twin culverts, the middle and May, and at the end of the spring, seeding window. And it was pretty wet still with all the reading we had, so Shane and I coordinated, talking to the city. It just makes sense to do the grading come late summer, early fall, get that much right out on the bed, and come back to the seeding. So that's what we're seeing in the punch list item.
With all that rain we had this spring, that east-west current had been running like crazy, so we put that culvert in, we had to have 6-inch bypass pump just to keep that. So we did that swale thing, and now we were gonna do nothing but make a mess, so we all talked city, Shane and I, it's gonna make the most sense to wait till July, August, after the water slows up. Otherwise, it's not a good final product.
Any questions for Shane? Either the Shanes or Bruce on the punch list item? Not, go ahead and we'll talk about.
So item B is the holding building permits till the pond is finished up. In, base where they're at, ponds operating, stormwater management standpoint. And we understand that the site related activities they have, we get to see it this fall. Next thing we'll be resell, but that's.
So what kind of motion do we need for that then? Just to go ahead and let them start issuing permits consistently or?
Because then the June,
Yeah.
as of the end of June, unless she takes an action.
Action or no action?
Well, I would just, why can't we just say that they can start issuing building permits?
Issuing them for building permits. Back to the problem with today.
Okay.
I don't see why. First, if that's my motion.
Second,
So, but they, it's not June, what,
We're not
We're
suggesting.
removing this, yeah.
Instead of like them. It's the thing. Instead of like, again,
And they're not setting a new.
No, they basically, they've got some things they need to get finished before the city will set on. So they still have incentives to get it done. The city's not accepting the pond, it's still Shane and Bruce's responsibility to maintain that, and take care of it. And until they get those items addressed, it'll be theirs. They ultimately might get turned over to the city, so. So there's no reason to, put another building permit issue, but, 3 months out, since there's a simple fact that it's theirs to be, they're responsible for it, it's theirs to be.
Can we get a, can you update us when July, August, when these things are all completed? Just so we have mark it off the list that it's all done, so we can.
Yeah, you have, it has come to council, you have to accept it, you have to accept it, council has to accept it, so yeah, this will come back to the council. All the items have to be addressed, they have to actually, there's a plan survey, there's their engineers prepared. Also, he needs to finish it out, and his building, all that stuff will come back to the council.
They can't see till the middle, what is it, August 10th or something? Yeah, so they can't even see till then. So,
So it's sometime thereafter, we should have it.
Yeah.
Come back up, it's all done.
is there a motion in a second?
Yeah,
That's what I have. Motion in a second.
first, second, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you.
So then item 7C and 7E, so 7C is the discussion about some motion concerning cost sharing for the twin culverts. Like I mentioned, it was originally a box culvert, and at the May meeting, they talked to council about changing that out. And then asked the investor participation on that as well. And then he is discussion about tax credits and charitable donations, so all that Shane and Bruce come on to talk about those.
Yeah. So the culvert is the same as what we had discussed last month. I know you guys just wanted time to look at that. As far as I remember, that's where we were with those, with the culvert items. Is that right?
Well, Shane has sent us a different figure. I think. he
Yes.
emailed it.
And I apologize about that. If you remember last time that what we had sent at the initial box culvert, when the footage on there, it got shortened up by 8 feet around, I believe, Shane, something like that.
Yeah, they went from, 134 to 120.
So it shortened up, so that initial number got shortened and that footage, linear footage shrunk down is why that number's off. So that number had changed in the email, that it's the correct number, the 49 instead of the 54.
So in this request for cost sharing was not in the original agreement, or
No, it was exactly what we had discussed last meeting. No, it was not. This is what we asked last.
what's hard for me is. I think the original culvert was somewhere around 300,000, I think. Shane, is that correct?
I think it was like 301, 301,000.
And then he came and asked for what twin culverts and it got it down to 100, so there's a significant cost savings there. Didn't end up putting a trail on the east side, so there's savings there. On the west side, I don't remember all the changes that were going there, but it's hard for me. When it wasn't in the original agreement, now to be asking for cost savings, you know, on a culvert. I'll round it up to 50,000, that's a big number. But if it was in the original agreement, then okay, but we've also had some tweaks that came out pretty good.
They also install it simply because it's something we asked them to do, or it's a result of something we asked them to do.
So, but
The culvert.
So if you remember last meeting, I said I didn't even want to install it because this is. You guys can just come back and say, no, we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna do this. The reason this culvert is in is because of the trail, which is for city benefit. Yes, there was a box culvert before. The initial plan on the preliminary plat just showed a culvert. We didn't know what it was. So we didn't ask for anything, and you can blame that on me, that I missed that on the initial plan. Yes, we should have asked for that in the agreement. Plain and simple, no question there. It's something that came up. It's a huge cost to us. This pond has cost us, I think we're pushing $1 million on that pond, which we never expected in the first place. So just asking for whatever the city can help, but that's all I'm asking for now.
gotcha.
I think I was asked to give some finance, input, and I didn't have a lot of time to research it, but, I believe that yes, the city has the funds, whether they be funds on hand or, leftover bond funds. But realize it's not in the budget, so we'd have to do a budget amendment to, work that, cost in.
Didn't this topic come up earlier in the year? I mean,
Well, during budget, you discuss participation with Heartland Heights a lot,
and it didn't
different
go very
items,
far
right, at that time.
at that.
So I assume you has the option of going less than 50% as well. Or whatever number would sound good, if you're considering cost sharing. Everyone's pondering questions or
I'm looking at the next item and wondering if we can't do something that way or that way.
do you want to talk about the next item before you? make it?
Can we talk about the next item too and see if we can maybe work something out that works for both things, perhaps?
We had a call with our accountant, kind of explain the area and what we were doing, and there's a lot of excess land that the trail is going to be on that could possibly be given to you and taken as a tax deduction for us. If not, this area covers about 130 additional lots beyond what we have now. And we can't take that all as an expense. We have to sell the lots in order to get that expense, so it's gonna be years down the road before we can take those deductions. Whereas if we did a charitable donation, that might help move it up to current. And so we haven't gotten far enough into that, but I think what our accountant recommended was we hire an appraiser, come in, explain the area, explain what was used for the trail, the excess land, because a lot of that is for stormwater. So I'm assuming that won't be deductible. So there's probably around 9 acres possibly over and above the pond area that might be deductible. But we won't know that until we actually have it appraised. So before we hired an appraiser, I wanted to get your input on whether you'd be receptive to us coming back. If the appraiser found it could be a charitable donation or a tax credit, if you would possibly accept that.
There's no cost, there's nothing for the city. We pay the appraiser, we pay everything. All it does is help with our tax situation. That's your total price. You just word it either way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is this ground that would be dedicated to the city anyway? I mean,
Yes.
Eventually.
eventually, yeah.
Yes.
Where's it at? The property that you're talking about?
Well, it'd be anything that's not stormwater related, I assume, and I'm assuming
South of
that's
the pond.
where the trail would be, yeah, the south and maybe the west area of the ponds. That's just open green space.
So just like the farm over here, kind of dairy queen, when that got donated, it'd be the same thing. We're donating for all area where the trail is, everything has recreation. So we'd be giving it to the city.
So you'd just be doing it now instead of waiting later as those lots get
It would
built out?
still be giving it to you now, and the only thing that's gonna change for us is we can take our tax depreciation right now instead of pushing it out later, 20-year period.
Yeah, because I think our account figures for with the stormwater areas, the additional 130 lots beyond what we developed today. So, and we have about 40 left to sell, so that's many years down the road. If we could recoup some of that now, that would help. So that's why we were looking at this with our account, but I didn't want to hire an appraiser before at least running this by you to see if you'd be receptive to it once we had the report to look at it.
Would it make sense to get an opinion from the attorney?
Because the city would get it one way or the other. Is that
Yeah.
the question Cynthia's asking?
Yeah, it won't make any difference to us. 'Cause
Well,
we don't pay taxes.
I don't know, if they donate it to us before the public improvement is on it.
Right.
And so we haven't accepted the trail, what does that do?
we probably wouldn't do it till everything's done.
Well,
Or
you're
one-
You would be dedicating that, and I think what's the difference between a dedication that we're accepting the improvement and you're dedicating it rather than donating it.
It's really just a format of mentality to the government.
Yeah, for the IRS.
That's the whole, so.
And the appraiser may come in and say, you can't do this, but that's why we're not knowledgeable enough on that. But I'm assuming the appraiser can tell us yes or no, or these are the things you could consider donation, these are the things you couldn't. The excess land, in my mind, is one of the few things that we can probably use. And if there's 10 acres at $20,000 an acre, you know, it's a substantial tax benefit to us. It would be helping us. It's no different for the city really in any way, whether we. do
Well,
the
we had the
donation.
upkeep of it.
But you have to approve the donation. That's why I'm asking now, before we go get further down the line.
It's just a matter of if it's donated, then
Yeah,
Donated
it's
versus
just a
dedicated.
matter of if you legally do that as part of, that's the way I see it.
Yeah, so all the,
Question.
all the improvements would be done, we would have accepted them, and then it just donate instead of dedicate,
Yes.
and that's what you're checking.
yes.
Our attorney would probably need to look at
Yeah.
that as well.
Yeah.
I'm just on the, usually you're saying like 9 or 10 acres for is it the on site?
It'd be outside of,
Outside the pond, so I think the pond's around 9 acres, I think.
But I mean, that part of,
yeah.
Yeah,
then you're saying something like, oh, that's not small.
well, the stormwater area. That this is supposed to cover for our lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's-
Stormwater runoff.
Yeah, the existing stormwater runoff, this is supposed to handle for Heartland Heights.
Okay, I was confused. how you-
Is roughly 130 acres, or 130 lots, I'm sorry. I don't know how many acres that is, but.
So you're just looking to see if the council is open to.
I mean, we're not.
Learning about it.
I'm receptive to it, I would just say, you know, whatever the accountant has or thinks he has, I'd probably have forward to us so we can review and make sure. I mean, it's not really a cost to us, it's, you know,
We're gonna get it
I
eventually
understand
anyway.
it's tax mumbo jumbo, which we all know it's a giant Charlie Foxtrot anyway. So I'm receptive to it, but I just obviously want to review it first or
Have our attorney.
attorneys review it and make sure that there's no
Negative downside to it.
conflict.
I mean, I can't
whatever.
see, it's not like we pay taxes, so.
It makes sense. I mean, the thing I just look at is how situations like this haven't been happening a whole lot more in the past. I mean, your guys' is in makes total sense. That's why it just raises like, it doesn't add up. We don't see that.
Because like normal dedication would be like just pond, where we're donating the area where the trail sits. So that's the difference there, because if we were to donate just a water quality basin, there's no benefit for recreation. Where the tax liability portion comes in, we can take that accelerated depreciation is on a recreational area, which is everything outside of pond. where
The
that
trail.
trail's gonna
So it's just because it's a unique setup.
That's it,
from the
exactly,
design.
exactly,
Okay,
right,
all right.
yeah.
Oh, that makes more sense.
We'll take our money back, like, maybe for the lot, park.
Donate that.
There you go.
Hindsight.
Throw it out there.
We still have to pay some tax, but we still have some expenses.
I guess I don't have a problem with them looking into that. I mean, I'd like to see.
We need to ask that
Moving
question,
forward.
yes, because it might have, it probably is going to be. Yeah, 2 parcels would be my guess, I don't know.
That's what I thought it's just with that.
Drip around maybe.
So do we need a motion, Cynthia, just to say the council receptive to learning more, or
I don't think you need a motion for that.
no? I think that's where we're at.
Motion probably if we do want to donation.
Right.
It's kind of a
But I don't think, yeah, but I don't think we have.
anything to know, yeah. So I'd say send it over and let the lawyers review and go from there.
All right, so go back up to item number C.
So did you get that? I think we're open to your
Thank you.
suggestion, but
Yep.
we can't take action on it.
I,
because there's
and I
too many-
knew that would be the answer, I just didn't want to do it without asking first, so.
So what do you think about the culvert thing?
I'm receptive to that, some of the conversations we had last month. That they've gone above and beyond reducing costs, and it's something that was installed from a request we made. Would be a short version. It reduced our participation from what, by factor of 3. And yes, they've saved money on eliminating some trails and stuff, but we all know construction's expensive, and I know what a nightmare it's been with that bond.
When you say cost savings by a factor of 3.
Our participation went roughly last fall when we were talking about it, it was 300 some thousand, so our participation was at about 150. That's what they came to us recently, when they said they'd have the same, the twin culverts, the culvert.
Value engineering in the design change.
Yes, so everything that stayed the same, is the type of culvert used, reducing the cost from our participation of 150 to what I write 49.9.
But the agreement didn't have the one.
I understand, yes, but I'm saying that that was something as a result of our, not the walking through.
Was that a motion?
Let's see, Dan, you live in Harlan Heights, what's your opinion?
Well, there's a desire to get it done. I think I'm kind of with Tom's a little bit of. I know you said you spent, eventually, almost 7 figures there, but the agreement originally, like when we moved in, it was supposed to be a trail run, like I get the reason why that there can't be anything on the east side. But is there some view that we can see that shows, here's what the expected expense was of the trail, the lake area, where we're calling it, when it was first created versus where we are today with the trail that at maximum is only gonna go around half of it. And in the immediate future, it's only gonna go a quarter of the way.
You're looking for numbers, Dan?
They're looking for a general cost of what the pond and the surrounding area costs now versus what they originally thought it was when they developed the grid was first signed.
Yeah, so if we're saying this is an extra, 50,000. What was the expectation of what the city was going to participate in prior? And then taking into account that it's not exactly what was originally put out there as an idea anyway. Just to see if the 50,000 fits within the plan or not.
I think Shane had given us those figures. I don't know if it was last meeting
It
or.
wasn't for the total pond, but
Two.
beginning of the year, we
Right.
were doing budgeting stuff, I provided some different
Right.
costs with both trails, based on the price they provided for the budget.
Right.
Beginning of the year, that way.
Well, he did come ask us to move forward. He was hoping that together on the drive, because we did kind of receptive that we were gonna be participating in the overs. Acting in good faith there.
Well, I don't want to. You're correct, but whether or not the city participates
I
or not,
understand.
those are the approved plans, unless you completely redesign the pond, which is 98% complete. Those culverts have to go in whether or not the city participates.
Right.
So that. The argument that you put them in with the expectation the city to participate, they have to go in. Whether or not city doesn't participate in other parts of that pond, and you still have to do it. So unless they want to hire an engineer to completely redesign it, go out, reshape the pond and reconstruct it, go through that process again, then it's $1,000 or more. It wasn't really a lot of options, unless the city would accept it. But that was part of it to get the project, to get the pond completed, before those culverts. Even though there was the box culvert, less expensive. Like 40-inch tank. So,
Fine, and I'll make a motion to that effect to, participate on sharing.
Yeah, I think that change would have been.
And what amount?
The amount requested, I think the revision was 49.9 roughly. 49, 85.95.
It's some shaking, I think, right?
Oh, there's,
You need us to turn up the heat?
We'll get you a costume.
Yeah, I got it set in my house.
so we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay.
Okay.
3 ayes and 2 nays. Motion carries. Okay, thank you.
Hey, you're.
I have one more question, it's helpful. One thing that came up for us on the bridge. So I'm asking them how to proceed with this. When we had gave that quote, for since it was a city, or bridge, tax was not included on that. I asked Cynthia for a tax certificate to order that bridge, and she said since we're buying it and turning it over to the city, that we have to pay tax on that, $14,300 tax. My question is that something the city could buy the bridge to save that $14,000, or is there a way to work around that?
It's gonna become a city bridge eventually, isn't it?
That's why I was asking, because I didn't figure tax in just because I assumed it was a city project, so that's why I'm asking. Is there something your guys' attorney can look at and say, is there a way we do this, or something you guys can say that you guys, I don't know, I'm asking.
I'm not going, as clerk, going to issue that tax exempt because I know it's illegal.
Because they're the contractor.
They're the contractor. It's not a city project. They're the developer and they're putting in, just like when they put in the streets, when they put in the water and sewer main, just because they're gonna dedicate it to us does not make it our project. I won't be any part of issuing that tax exempt
So in
certificate.
order, I think what she's trying to tell you is for us to do that, it would have to be city property first.
It would have had been our project. We would have bid it. We would have done all the steps that we do for our projects. And then we issue tax exempt certificates for our subcontractors, which we hire through the bidding process.
I don't know, I'm just trying to think outside the box, but I don't know if we could. Like you can donate it or dedicate it to us until it's completed now at this point. I don't know if there's a way around that or not.
That's fine, I was like.
Jeremy, I don't-
It was just.
I,
We'd have-
I feel like that's probably a legal no-no, because then you would find a lot of people trying to get around.
The same thing.
The city to purchase
Yeah.
things that
Yeah,
isn't our project.
that's my case. And I, yeah.
I don't know. You can think about it some more. I don't know if there's a good way around that at all without us owning the property. I don't think it's legal.
Like I said, just a question, because it's 14,000, so it's, I think, dollars for these hours.
Thanks.
Because I think you start getting in, I'm not suggesting that, but I'm just thinking, why would you be allowed to? Because then you start getting into people like, hey, you buy the concrete and then I'll rebate you half of the, sales. It seems at face value very susceptible to fraud. And, that nature.
If we'd have done it the other way, we could have. If it had been our project, we could have.
The project costs will then.
If they're different states. Okay,
No, that answers it. All right,
Thanks for letting us
Thank
in on
you.
this meeting.
But
thank you guys.
Yes.
All right, next item, A. Shane's gonna give us the project update on the West Cemetery Road replacement project and the intersection with Highway and Eagle Drive, some updates, and then we'll have some other items further down.
So we had submitted concept statement back in March, which starts the environmental review process. There are some, we've been looking at doing this as two projects, the bridge project and then the intersection project. Separate project. There's some confusion on the DOT and how that be handled and requirements for the non-federally funded project, the intersection project. So the back and forth of that, tweak some things, resubmitted concept statement on May 3rd. After that back and forth. So that's been submitted now for going on a couple of months. They've been going through the environmental review process. They've got the environmental comments through the DOT, and they've been submitted to Fish and Wildlife and Department, and should be hearing back from them soon. If there's any further comments from them. And last week, the historical, archaeological, cultural analysis was approved through the DOT and passed on to SHPO, which is the Iowa State Historical Preservation Office. It's kind of an update on where we're at with that process. There's some clarification based on the intersections project, whether that had to be done completely as one project with the bridge or not. And that's kind of tied with what the final environmental determination is, the determination. And that will likely, based on the feedback we've got so far, we haven't had final feedback, but probably going to be a categorical exclusion, which is kind of the second tier. Problematic categorical exclusion is the minimal one that the DOT can rubber stamp and doesn't have to go on the FHWA, Federal Highway Administration. So it's probably going to be a categorical, not programmatic categorical exclusion. So with that, they're saying we can do both projects, two separate. The federally funded bridge project obviously has to be led through the DOT, has to follow all the DOT federally funded requirements. The intersections project would have to meet all the environmental requirements that are put on the project, because it'll be reviewed as part of the entire project as kind of one project. But it can be bid separately as a separate project, and it can be bid at the local level, so it can bid for the city, it doesn't have to be bid for the DOT. We'll probably have to meet BABA requirements, which is Buy America requirements for the intersection project, but we wouldn't have to meet like Davis Bacon or federal highway requirements on the local project. So that's kind of where we stand now, at least how they see it, based on feedback they've given us so far. Obviously, you know, they won't tell us when we'll get the final environmental clearance, the NEPA clearance. But hopefully in the next 6 weeks or so, we can do that. But I'd say somewhere 6 to 10 weeks, we get that clear, and then we can actually move on to the next stage, which is talking to the adjacent property owners. So. Another thing we looked at with the intersections project was extending the water main north. So we're extending it through the intersection, and we're like, well, you know, let's extend it north and just hook up to the water main that's in Henry and Haley's addition. It's close, let's just do it all in one shot. But with the extra requirements that bringing in extra property owners that may just open it up, that don't really benefit the bridge project, we decided to just pull it out at this time. It's a minimal project, we can do it after this, the intersection, the bridge project are all done. Whether council wants to do it right away or wait a year or two, whatever, but you know, I did anticipate we could do that as just a competitive poll, we wouldn't have to go for public bids or something like that.
That's the one where the fire hydrants just stand and there's nothing going to it.
So there's fire, so when they did that subdivision, they put in the water main per the city standards. With the understanding that when we get up there, we'll hook on, and then it'll become a public water main. And they put the fire hydrants in, but they have them covered in bags typically because they don't want, fire department or somebody going hooking up on, they're dry. Well, they're not dry, they have well water in them, but it wouldn't be adequate to put out fire.
Shane, looking at the two separate projects. We had talked at one point about doing the intersection project first, is that still?
So, based on, how long it takes to get the NEPA clearance, the environmental clearance. We would still like to get that out for bids this winter and get the intersection project constructed in 2025. And then have that all done, so we can have access to every spot, and then shut down in between Stallman and Eagle View and the highway, and then do a bridge project. Move the bridge and Stallman Bridge. That would be ideal, but based on, how long this NEPA environmental process takes, may impact, we may just have to bid it as one project, so. Right now, we're all that we still do is 2 separate projects, get the intersection work done next summer, next spring, summer, fall.
So when you say bid it as one project, you mean it would still be 2 separate ones, it would just be bid at one time?
It'd be bid at one project, so it'll all be under the federal.
No, because then that would all be federal money. No, I don't know.
That's-
That would be the dumbest thing we ever did. And then everything has to follow their rules. Why don't we do that?
We don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that at all.
But
That
part of
just
it's
costs us more
Part of
money.
it's just the timing. So,
When we get to that point, I guess we need to have a discussion, because if we need to push, we need to push, but I don't. That was the whole point of saving all that money, was not to do them together like that. So we're not under all the federal.
well, then, and we have to look at details, then it's just a matter of you bid the bridge project. And then you just have a later start date, which is possible. So we gotta go through, we have to go through the environmental and get that done, and then we have to go through the right of way and easement acquisition process. And so, based on the timing of all that, we can bid out the intersections project. We can do that any time, but then we still have to bid out the bridge project. We have to do that in a timely manner, so. We can do that, and then you may just bid it and then just say, okay, start dates 8 months out or something.
Right, you could adjust the start date.
So, there's things we can look at. And you're correct, that's not ideal to do it.
No, it is not ideal. That'll cost us a fortune.
They really say, yeah, it accelerates our costs.
No, yeah, we don't. And then you have to jump through hoops it just makes everything more complicated. It's so expensive. So that's why they're separate. If we go the other direction, I don't know if we can even afford it. It's it's just not ideal. Okay.
That was just an update, correct, Shane?
Yep.
No action on that, just informational. We're ready to move on to number 9. Talking about a contract amendment.
Yeah, so this is for the historical bridge assessment. So the SHPO, the State Historical Preservation Office. They have, I think it's, bridges are 45 years and older, have historical bridge analysis done. And they have a historical bridge analysis done, or there's another level, a higher level, more detailed, more information, more expensive. And the bridges, and what all goes into that particular bridge. So the SHPO had basically a library of all these bridges, including this bridge. But in the last year or so, I don't know the exact timing, but they basically told the DOT, these are all outdated, we need to go back and redo all of them. So they hired consultants to do this for all of the bridges in the state that are 45 years and older. And it's about a 2-year process, and of course, we follow our project. So typically, there's no cost for this. You know, it's already done, it's in this library, of these bridges that are over 45 years. But now that we follow this 2-year process where they're redoing all the bridges, we either have to wait till they're done, or we had to hire a consultant to do one for this bridge, so. We had went ahead and hired us, they told us this back in, I think, late January, early February, and we just got Impact 7G with our environmental consultant. Do it, they had the right requirements, met the right, certifications to do it from the state, and to get it done so we can get our concept statement in, we didn't want to delay that, so. So it's done, and we've gotten approval, and it was out of the 2 ratings, the 2 levels of review, the bridge, it was below one historical bridge assessment. So that work is already done, but that was $4,000 on top of what our agreement was with them. So that's what this amendment is for.
So for the historical bridge, what's the outcome that they're trying to determine there?
If
It's
it's,
based on, yeah.
they wouldn't let it, you'd probably have to try to fix it in,
Well, yeah, I mean, depending on,
if it's.
different features of the bridge, who is the architect, different things, where this was built in 1917, this bridge. And it was a standard bridge, it wasn't anything.
There's nothing special about it.
Anything special.
But you knew that before.
Well,
They had it.
Exactly, yeah, you just gotta spend $4,000 for someone to
Your problem
review
there is you're thinking logic.
yeah,
what they reviewed 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
nothing would have
stupid.
changed except for it gotten older and deteriorated more since the previous one, but that's. So John reached out to him and was like, well, if you have a consultant doing it, can you send them up here and get this one done? And I said, no, we can't do that because that's. Needs a bridge assessed this year, is gonna request, and we can't make exceptions, so.
What would have been the problem if we didn't do it?
They would have just stopped our environmental review. So the I think environmental review is NEPA. There's environmental, there's, there's wildlife, there's plants, there's cultural and historical, archaeological, things like that. This is what's all involved with the NEPA process.
So bottom line is we need to be $1,000 for the historical review that's already happened. Correct, so moved. Good choice.
Roll call, please.
I,
Aye.
Thank you. And number 10.
This is a contract amendment for basically for the appraisal and review appraisal services and the right-of-way and easement acquisition consultant. So with federal funding, you have to, when you acquire easements right away, you have to have a consultant that goes through that process and then negotiates with the adjacent property owners. And this is to bring them on board as part of the project. In our original agreement, we did talk with an appraiser and got some pricing. But there's still details that, haven't been ironed out with that appraiser. The additional costs are for a couple of additional lots that have been included as part of this overall process. And the consultant. At first, the city was looking at leading this possibly themselves, which they realized they can't do. Reached out and talked to the city attorney, and they said, no, that's not something that they could do, and if they were to do it, it'd be a lot more expensive.
so do we have an agreement in place already for this stuff,
For our services, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we were gonna use Nick from Marion, and he's not wanting to do that, is
Well,
that?
he's the city, yeah, he's the attorney for the
Right.
city. And when we reached out to him and said, is this something that their office can do, he said they might be able to do it, but it really not be cost effective. And he suggested going with a consultant that's already approved through the DOT.
What?
And you wanna tell them you got bids from looked at two different
Yes,
companies?
so I coordinated with ProSource and JCG Land Services. And of course, they, their proposals weren't completely apples to apples, but when you broke it down, they were within $300 of each other. ProSource's services, ProSource's was $300 more than JCG Land Services, but their services included mortgage releases for any properties that have mortgages. Where JCG's did not.
Seems like a formality, I mean, we pretty much, there's nothing.
Yeah,
No other options really. So,
there's not.
I'll motion to approve the contract amendment.
For which one did you wanna do? Did you?
They've decided that they're gonna hire ProSource, right?
Because they.
Yeah, that's right, yeah,
Okay.
this ProSource, like I said, the prices were, the difference was $300.
But they're.
But they're
including
doing
that.
more.
They included additional services.
Motion on the floor, need a second?
Second.
Roll call, please. Marianne, I'll start.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 11.
I apologize, this was supposed to be on your June 11th meeting, and I just forgot. So there's only two changes. One is due to certifications, which, you've already adopted a schedule. And then the other was a, part person, I think it's one, too. Yeah.
Motion. Second.
Roll call, please. You wanna go?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 12. Utility rates. Cynthia,
Yeah.
would you like to enlighten us with the updates over what they've seen before?
I will try. So guess I'm apologizing a lot. I didn't get this in the packet till like right before 5. It's been a crazy day.
I guess I didn't see that last one.
Stacy and I ran two different options today, this afternoon. If you remember, on our previous test, I thought the extra water revenue, could probably be taken down. We probably didn't need, all that much. The 10.50 and the 11 was charging. So I tried at 9, 9.50 and 10 and 8, 8.50 and 9, leaving the minimum the same. And then if you remember, we discussed taking the water debt service fee to the recommended level. In last meeting, we saw that generated what we needed to in the debt service. And then the sewer, if you remember, the 675 and 7 took down the sewer revenue like 80,000 based on the May billing, and I thought that was a little too severe. So I tried 7, 8, and 9, and 7, 7.50 and 8. You can see in the sewer, taking the minimum down $2, and then last meeting we discussed, I had shown you sewer debt service at 24 and 22, so we just, you asked me to plug in 23. So that's being raised, it's 21 right now, so that's being raised to, but the minimum's coming down to, so there's no change in for the resident on a monthly basis for those two. But we're at, right now it's 8, but we're adding some other layers there. And then the garbage, I believe last meeting, we decided yes, to go to the 22.75, which has enough for the contract plus the quarter for the glass.
We've never fully funded trash.
I know. believe me, I know. So, it was a little interesting. When I looked at the revenue numbers. I just want to point out that just at still at the current rate, this billing is 22.55% higher than the May billing, just because of increased
Oh, water usage.
consumption. So that made the changes a little bit, different. So this is at, this is the test 2. And then I looked, I'm leaning to recommend the test 2, the lower rates. And then I kind of wanted to see, well, if we took off that extra consumption, what would it do? And, so at the May level, it would generate about 100,000 more in the regular water. It would cover the water debt like we need it. In the sewer, it generate about 16,000 more, so we stopped taking it negative, but this isn't exact science, so I would say that 16 is probably almost flat, you know what I mean? We could be under, we could be over some months. But then the sewer debt is where we would recommend. And this just shows you from the budget what you can see the projected sewer is gonna be in positive. So we didn't need to increase it a bunch, and we're not proposing to increase it a bunch unless usage goes way up. But you can see that, here, the water is projected to be a little bit negative. Water project money is a little bit negative, a little more negative. Trust and agency, you don't ever have to worry about that, because that's the residents' money that's just held, whether we have more moving out or more moving in, that goes up or down. And the water fund, the projected revenue will cover that. And the sewer will cover that. And then we go to sample bills. So the minimum on both tests, the minimum didn't change, so it would be going up almost $11, 13%. 3,100 gallon bill, 10 or 11%, very close. Almost 7,000 bill, 7% or 11%. 11,000 gallon bill, 7 or 13, and then an 18. And these were bill amounts that I got from the May billing. That's why they're kind of strange, but 12 or 20. So if you go with the test 2 rates, the change is from 13 to 7, or from 7 to 13%.
And I think you look at the dollar amount.
Yeah,
I don't think 13% for someone using 1,500, they're going up low. Well,
about,
not compared to the next level up, but you're within pennies, but
yeah,
in my opinion, that's the way to really.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Cynthia, at the last meeting, we talked a little bit about on people with second
oh, yeah,
meters.
yeah,
Did you do anything with that?
well, I couldn't plug it in because they're not on a different rate schedule, so I couldn't play with it. But Stacy and I looked that up, let me see here. I think, if you make their minimum go from 12 to 6, it's about 17 or almost 1788, so almost $1,800. Yeah. I think there's 298 meters approximately of second meters. And so, I think that times 6 is 1788 a month that the water revenue would go down to make that change.
You said to go from 12 to 6, so you drop it.
Half, just the minimum charge for that second meter. And it is a charged sewer, so that would just be water. But if they, let's say they used 5,000, then they would be into the regular rates. I'm not suggesting that you change the rate for the usage over a minimum, just maybe the minimum be less.
So it's
that-
like people that would fill their pool would pay that higher rate 1 month, then after that it would go down to the lower rate if they don't use their water again, right?
Right.
So,
It would help the people, we had, I think yourself was an example, of you had very minimal usage
Yeah,
because we were getting plenty of rainfall.
right.
And that 1788 less a month would only be for 6 months. You know, they're not active the whole year.
The other piece of information that I got from Stacy was we had talked about trying to encourage people to go to an email bills instead of paper bills, because we spend a lot in postage. Mary Ann did it?
Well, she just gave me her sheet,
I
right?
did.
Just like now.
I've been carrying it around for a month. And it's like,
Well, then the number just went
oh, but
up.
I'm sure.
Since we just started talking about it, we've had 17 additional households, now 18 additional households, which everyone helps, but still not a dramatic change.
I
What
don't
about give $5 off their next bill? Is that too hard to track? Put something in the fax to,
That's really hard to track.
but, I mean, if someone sends it in and mentioned the ad,
Their name will go into for a drawing for
hey, there you go.
$20. I'm just saying, something. If you do this, your name will go in the drawing, it will give away, I don't know, blue. There, I'm serious, I mean, people do the weirdest things for that kind of
You
stuff.
could do a paperless deduction each bill from someone too,
Oh, what?
paperless, you know, the deduction for paperless. Whatever your post.
A line item on there.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's 47.
Right, but
whatever.
I'm just letting you know, staff's got a track of that then too.
No.
What's the,
What's your polite way of saying no?
you said we had 17. Do you know what the like rate per person is on average? So if you got 100 people to sign up for it, what we'll be looking at as far as
What's actual savings?
Savings.
What does a postcard cost?
Now I've got to go back to my notes,
Well, it just keeps getting more and more expensive, it just seems
because
like.
our postage is like $500 a
It just
month.
seems like
Right.
it
For
would
the
be
water
so much
bills.
easier for people just to be able to do it online. Unless they're older and they don't have that, you know,
That includes a newsletter.
they can't get anything.
No, that's just.
No, that's just the bill.
postage.
Not just bill. by-
Yeah, newsletters are less.
And that's just.
Because of the different
postage.
rates.
That's not the card or the printing of the
Sure.
card.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah, that. So I don't know that we actually came up with a per household cost to do that. We just were looking at that postage as a big number. Start with.
To come up with something to get under.
Again, as an incentive to help manage the rates.
Some people won't switch, the older people that aren't computer literate won't switch, but there's no reason why everyone else couldn't.
we could do sidewalk scanning and door knocking.
You can $5 for the next 3 months. I understand it's hard to track, and then after that, shut it off. Shut off what? Try to give off, take the $5 away, not an ongoing deal, but
But then
anybody
the
that
people that are
signs up.
doing it will say, well, why do?
What about, I've been signed up for 5 years. I've been saving
Yeah,
my
I'm
money
gonna
for
go
5
back
years.
to
Yeah.
snail mail then.
So I'm gonna go back so I can get my $5. People are crazy.
So any new property owner that signs up, they're automatically put in for. Email,
They're given the option.
so
It's not a requirement.
how about we take that off going forward to where they don't have an option to.
Cause I know people
It's
that
all
don't own
email.
computers.
Right.
People that come in.
There's people that don't have email.
That don't,
No, my parents don't. I am their email.
But we still have to present it as an option. Because whatever, right, wrong, or different, people don't use computers.
And we do try to promote it. But
I think we get some of those, banner flags and some of those.
Get a wind-driven sign. And put it in the right of way.
So I read your email today. Today over.
Only on you guys.
So we're looking to move, utility rate?
Well,
Oh, I guess.
yeah, you gotta decide what you want. I did go ahead and write the solid waste one, that's your next agenda. But I would have to write up the water and sewer and bring it to your next meeting, you know, it has to be in the, ordinance form, but.
I would say, Cynthia, with all of your knowledge and you've worked a lot on, you guys have done extraordinary, dial it in. Your recommendation is test two.
Test tube from today, and then, you know, we can look at it for 6 months.
And if it
And then
doesn't-
before budget begins, we can review it and say, hey, this worked out perfect, or maybe they're still a little high, or they're still a little low, you can, you know, tweak them. That really is the I mean, I'm making the best guess I can,
Yeah.
you know, but each month is a little bit, you know,
Sure.
look at the difference between May and June's usage, you know.
Yeah.
Went up 22%, so that is gonna change the figures.
And, you know, you look at the other towns, where I looked at what their rates gone up to, and we're not more. You know, you look at that, and we're in the same ballpark, so. I would suggest test two, and based on all we're talking and heavily rely on Cynthia's recommendation, yes, it's, you don't know until you get into it, but. When we first talked about this, I didn't think it would be 10, 10, 11, 16, 38. I was thinking 30, 40, 50. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's the next one.
Yeah, that's when the water treatment plant comes on. But, you know, by then you'll have your sewer debt down, you know, so hopefully there will be some adjustments there.
Can we go through the budget pages to see, because anything that comes out there certainly would reduce. I mean, I'm partially in agreement, Tom, that it's not the, you know, the total number, we might be comparable to other cities or lower, but it's gonna be that shock of day one or month one, here we are at whatever the rate was, and then the next month they're getting $11, $13, whatever it is, increase. But they certainly didn't budget in.
So what do you want to look at, these totals here that show the fiscal
the-
25 net in the budget?
Well, for one, I guess that brings up a question. So on test two, did you, because I know the fiscal 25 nets today, did you recalculate those at all at some point for test two? Or are we saying that we're net not zero?
No, these are what's in the budget right now.
That's what we're saying today.
Right, but on
Yeah.
test two, the blue,
I just showed you what the additional revenue would be. No, I didn't recalculate this. So like, the water debt service, it'd be almost 142,000 negative. And so based on the estimates, this is generating about 147,600 in addition.
can we go through the other three attachments you had, the garbage budget pages, sewer budget pages, and water? The other attachments, the agenda. From the actual budget, the line items.
You wanna go line item? Okay, not just net revenue.
Correct, the last three attachments in there. The FY 25 within item 12. FY 25 garbage budget pages, sewer budget pages.
Okay.
And is there anything that we can take out, even as insignificant as it may sound? Because if we can walk in instead of it being 11, 12 bucks, if we get away with 5, I'm making up numbers, but.
Water or garbage?
Well, anything, I mean, if it's all adding up, we're,
Well, garbage, your increase isn't even covering. You would still have to subsidize. The garbage. I believe. And there's not a whole lot in garbage other than some, office salaries and very little maintenance salaries. Insurance a little bit, the main thing is the contractor fee, and we're locked into that in a 5-year contract.
And it gets a percentage of those same postage costs because one utility bill gets split across three funds.
What's technology?
So when we pay for our software, garbage has to pay a portion of it. Cause it uses the software, one, to generate payroll, two, to issue the bills. To pay the AP. To track everything in the general ledger, it uses everything except the meter reading, and it doesn't get charged for the meter reading modules. But it gets charged a portion.
To me, electronic billing is an easy one to look at that would affect all of those in a positive fashion, but haven't come up with a good way to accomplish that. Incentive or penalty.
Be blunt,
Pardon?
be blunt about it.
They what now?
Be blunt. If your bill's gonna go up by X, by switching every 100 people, we can switch over to electronic billing. It means this for everyone else.
Well, it's gonna affect the postage.
I think what he's getting at, I understand what he's getting at, but I don't think any change would be enough to lower the garbage fund. So for example, if you're looking at the garbage fund on the spreadsheet for 24-25, for projected balance is negative 47,805. Let's say we do the impossible and everybody goes digital and we reduce somehow our postage and shipping to zero. It still leaves us with a negative balance of $45-ish thousand. Is that 2,500 enough? You're asking to reduce the garbage rate from, whatever is proposed. And I think the answer short is no. And I can't remember how many total users we have. But you recall 1,222. So that means each home, if we reduced it to zero, would basically be saving $2 on their yearly postage. If I'm doing some raw math correct.
Just on the garbage side of it,
Just on the garbage.
so multiply that times 3.
So they would save for the whole year $6. So yes, I think there's incentives to get people to sign up for it. It does reduce it incrementally, but is it enough to reduce the overall garbage rate or water rate or whichever rate? I think the answer is no, because even if we reduce shipping in
Like the bills.
garbage, we're still short all the time. It's consistently subsidized by
The general.
general fund. But to your question, where the bigger gaps are in water and sewer, $6. I don't think you would be doing pennies, you'd be reducing it by like. Your average user, if you were saving it'd be only $4 for sewer and water, so you would take that $4 over 12 months, so 400 divided by 12 is what, 36 cents a month? So then you would have to find a way to reduce the water rate to equal out that 36 cents per fund, which, I mean, to be honest, you what reduce it by instead of like $7 to $6.99. I don't know if there's a way to reduce that effectively, because the biggest cost is the actual usage, or like
Are you talking water and sewer?
yes,
So,
Cost to produce it.
yeah, the cost, yeah.
Product.
Yeah, yeah, the postage, I mean, yeah, it's great to save it, but that's not gonna make a difference in the bill.
No, it's just that, and the process of 500 cards, that's what you're saving a month.
right, so traditionally it's, like automotive, what are your two biggest costs? Parts
parts of the product and labor. You know, that makes up the majority of your costs, like the other things like postage, which is good to try and get as many people as possible to sign up. Ultimately doesn't affect what the expenditures cost is, in turn, what we charge them for rates.
So I have the water budget sheets up.
Before you leave, solid waste question, Cynthia. I see it says city charges $15 per bulky item pickup. Does Republic get all of that, or how does that
They
work?
don't get any of that.
They don't get any of that?
They get what they charge, so. Let me think here. So they get, $5 of the Yardy rental each month. We get, we charge $5.25, so we get a quarter each month for those. And, so they get one, Republic allows them one bulky pickup per month. And so if they have, a bulky pickup, Republic doesn't charge them, we charge them 15 and we keep that 15. If they have another bulky item, Republic's gonna charge them 15, we're gonna charge them 15, so that second bulky item is $30. If they have an electronic or an appliance pickup, it's $30, it's 15 from each entity.
Any idea how many bulky item pickups we have in a year?
Not a lot, I mean, Stacy could make up a
So
report,
it
but
wouldn't have a dramatic impact if we charge $25 minimum for anything.
no,
Because most of them come to cleanup days with stuff that, right?
no, it would not have a dramatic effect at all, but it's very
A lot of
sporadic.
people wait for, the garage sale, I'm gonna put it out on the corner, and somebody's gonna take it. I've used it twice. 14 years.
Yeah, I think I used it for a dryer, but
I use different ones too.
So.
I don't remember what it was.
it was easy.
It's nice. It's nice dragging to the sidewalk instead of disposing, it, but I don't think there's enough regularity in people to do things to move the needle, because most big utility, a lot of places
They'll
will
take
take
it.
it away. You know, when I swapped out a water heater, they did it with. And yeah, they probably charge a higher disposal fee than we would charge, yes, but I think it's more convenient, they'd rather just pay that $100 or whatever than keep it in their garage and then wait for a time for them to come and then drag it out there, because there's a lot of people that don't want to be bothered with that.
I'm not sure, Dan, what you're wanting to do now at this point.
I just, for all of us to just, look at it, see if there's any area, even if it's $1,000, $2,000. Anything else?
And just as a reminder, okay, so let's say fuel's 8,500. You can see last full fiscal year was 8,568, so that's pretty consistent.
Right.
Fuel may go up, our usage may go up. We have no way of knowing for sure if that 8,500 is too much or not enough. And we would only fill the truck if it needs to be filled, and every time it's filled, it's charged road use, water, sewer, and parks. So 8,500, if you, let's say you wanna take 4,000 off that, you know, say, we're gonna go 4,500. You're not gonna park the trucks when they need to go do something. You're gonna spend it, whether that line says 4,500 or 8,500. And we're not going to spend more than needed, but we're not gonna park the trucks either.
It's very bottom line that you're looking at, very last line of that spreadsheet, that you hope that you're as close to that as possible.
Right, but things happen. If you get more snowstorms, you're gonna use more fuel. If you have a water main break, you're gonna use more payroll or more contractor.
Actually, you only have contractor at 5,000 as it is,
Yeah,
or no, you lowered to 3,000.
um,
I didn't pay a guy a week to do anything.
right, so I mean, you can make that line be whatever low number you want, but that doesn't mean that that's gonna be the reality in the fiscal year. I just,
That's fair, but we're not budgeting for a water main break. So,
the cities better plan on having a water.
You
If you
have to.
don't plan on any emergencies happening,
So you
you're not
budget it,
doing your job.
so you budget the money, but if you don't spend it, it doesn't do anything.
Right, that's what I'm trying to
So
come across.
just because the money's there doesn't mean we have to spend it. If we don't have a water main break, we don't, but the odds are we do have water main breaks. That's why we have a line item for it. It doesn't happen as much, but it used to happen all the time. That's one of the reasons why we have our own mini hole, because we used to have to pay Brecky or someone to do it, Dan, and now we have city staff that actually can do it. So we actually save a lot of money by making our people do that work instead of subcontracting it out. So when you look at things like the mini hoe rent that we pay for the year, that's kind of the offset of the contractor expense.
Dave Schmidt does a lot.
Yeah, Dave Schmidt, Brecky, we used to pay, gosh, we used to have them here a lot. Cause if it breaks in the middle of the night or on a weekend, you gotta call someone in to fix it.
And then once you have that piece of equipment, you can use it for other things.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Great thing that comes as an example is the trade show.
Mhm.
For weeks, that thing went pretty nonstop.
And no one would have ever anticipated a duration.
Right, and
But-
I'm saying,
but-
yeah, that happened.
Whether it was in the budget or not, we had to respond to clean up the duration, and you had to do a budget amendment. That's what I'm trying to say is you can make the lines whatever you want. That doesn't mean that that's gonna be accurate.
We'll have more amendments.
Yeah,
One of the things I'm curious about is that utility line is a big
Yeah, it
number
is.
for everything. Years ago, when I was on council, we actually had someone come and talk to us about solar.
the reason it's so big is because of the splash pad, and it's offset with revenues. The splash pad part,
The utility part, the number of utilities,
yeah, we bill ourselves for the water.
right?
Oh,
I'm trying to remember how long ago, because that was when I was fairly new, whereas they came to us and said we had to bill.
Yeah, the
ourselves.
auditors told.
Even
me
though,
that.
even though it's really nothing, it's one, again, one of those, like the bridge
You have
we
to
were
show
talking
it.
a little bit ago. You know,
So-
why are we paying someone $4,000 when they already know the bridge is a piece of garbage? Well, it's because it's some stupid box that has to be checked, and if we don't want our project delayed for 2 years, waiting for a stamp through red tape, we have to pay this $4,000 to keep the project.
so our water charge is under utilities.
So this charge
Yeah.
is
I thought it
basically
was
charge
electric.
ourselves,
No,
we're charging ourselves.
But electric should be still in there though.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it is, but the great majority of it is the water.
Water usage.
And yes.
And it's
we
in
were
the
on
revenues.
council Together with Mike Neal, I think, we're still at in the firehouse then,
Yeah.
on the second floor, and he was asking about the cost of the park versus the wastewater and water, what those rates would be and what potential long savings
Right.
would be, so, yeah, that's a potential thing we could look at, but there's always the upfront cost. I think the rates were cheaper for we'd save more at the park, at the complex versus the wastewater. But the reason we weren't looking to do anything at the park is exactly what's happening right now with vandalism at the bathroom, the vandalism of the free libraries. Because idle hands are the devil's playground, and there's a lot of kids running around doing stupid crap. And the replacement of those panels every time, I can't.
I see a couple of kids on the side outside the other day.
Do your citizens arrest them?
But yes, if that's, you're looking to cut costs, that could be something that you look at solar, but again, there's the upfront cost. And what is your ROI, how long until we break this? When is it fine? I feel like.
It was a while.
Yeah, so it was a while, obviously those numbers are way different now than they were then, but.
Well, and I think maybe we put in the UV plant after that, which is a big power user in sewer, and then that only runs in the summer, right?
November.
So yeah, then you're getting those budget rates are cheaper, they're industrial rate for the wastewater
Probably,
versus.
Have I ever-
rate for-
do I remember looking at that? No, I just kind of look at what the bill is.
So yeah, I mean, that's something if you're looking to reduce or slow down rate increases. You can look at that, but again, then it's gonna be from a geo fund or something to build. That.
Unless there's a grant opportunity or
Yeah,
some
I mean,
federal
if I'm
funding
around,
to
I'll
do.
never say no to. You
If
know,
we only had a
don't
city,
say free money, it's not free.
we only had a city administrator that could look into all these grants.
Foreshadowing.
Segue and so.
So to answer Dan's question, I think if you go line by line, the reality is there's not much there that moves the needle. You can look at bigger projects to save long-term like solar. But in terms of other things, number one, postage, you're not gonna really do anything on the grand scheme of things with lower rates. And two, if something happens, like when the lining of the pool ripped, you still gotta pay for it, you just have to do this budget thing.
And like insurance, I mean, this year we really looked, we raised the deductible, we looked at, because we were switching companies. Again, we don't control it. The 35 might not be enough.
So during these discussions, just planting the seed that, at the July meeting, there will potentially be some things that Convergent Energy may want as far as within their development agreement that may or may not impact future rates due to infrastructure costs. So just keep that in the back of your minds too. No details yet, but
Aren't we already giving them a tax abatement?
property tax, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's for another time.
July. So, so there was one suggestion on looking at test number 2. Did that include the second meter, reducing that to 6? The minimum to 6?
I don't say we need the second meter at 12, people that have it. I don't have a sprinkler system in my yard, but it was recommended when we built the house, and I go, okay. But I think that most of the people that have it for their yards, and I'd say leave it at 12, I mean. We're gonna have this discussion again next year, the year again, right, for rates, where what do we need to change, what do we need to change, and. I'm glad we're all talking about this a lot, and thinking hard about it.
Kind of think about the second one, since we only bill them 6 months, it's like their minimum is $6 for the year. You know, kind of, it's not the same as 6 for 6 months. But
You would have told me that, I wouldn't have any clue that I would pay six months.
oh, really?
No, I mean,
Yeah, because it's just another line
It's
in
just
your
that
bill, you
I
don't,
don't look at.
Yeah.
The details, and maybe I'm. Well.
Kind of opposite of how people look at the yard waste pickup. That only gets picked up for what, 6 months out of the year, and they feel like they're getting charged every month for it, so.
They're just gonna see the 1094, the 1061, or 11, some of them, right? I mean, boy, we worked our butts, Cynthia has worked her butt off, staff, and Joanne to get. This is minimal as we can.
Well, people that are pretty consistent in their monthly usage, you'll notice it more than people that fluctuate.
Yeah.
But even then, you said about 10%. Across the board, somewhere there,
Well,
on average.
yeah,
Probably.
yeah.
All the other towns around us have already moved.
And that's just for water, right? Increase.
No, that's
That's
total bill.
That's total bill.
Yeah.
All right, I move that we do test tubing the, outside water at where it is.
So that Cynthia prepares an ordinance to that.
Is that?
We need the
Well,
ordinance.
I'm just saying we might as well agree so she can get it prepared.
Right.
but-
Yeah, yep.
Fine with that.
And does that mean that the next item, number 13, waits and gets incorporated in,
No, they're different chapters.
okay,
I mean, that's the solid waste part. We know what the contractor fee is going to go to in
Yeah.
July.
okay.
Do we want to be charging our residents less than what we're paying the contractor? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but, this is just for the solid waste one to go to the 2275, which is what was needed for the contractor raise plus the quarter for glass,
But still short.
but still short, right?
So there's a motion on the floor for
Second.
Cynthia to prepare an ordinance using test number 2. Got to have a second on there.
Second.
I think we did. All in
Yeah.
favor?
Sorry.
It's a resolution, isn't it?
This is just
That's
directing
what-
me. to
Yeah,
write
yeah,
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So did we needed the motion just to direct her then? No. not
But you
really.
made it, that's fine.
Yeah, that's.
That's why-
Did I hear everybody's vote?
Did everybody vote aye?
I didn't hear
Okay,
Dan vote.
Okay.
Whether I'm sorry, I can't always hear all the way over there. Okay. All right, item number 13 is just specifically for solid waste then. Cynthia?
This is, making the, ordinance be the 2275. For the garbage.
So
Second,
Roll call please.
Aye.
aye.
All right, that was the first reading. Do we want to consider suspending the rules for the second and third reading?
I'll move for the second.
For the second reading,
Second.
roll call please. Marion?
Aye.
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 Since it's a rate increase, sit on the last reading, just
Say that again.
sit on the last reading for next month.
So you don't want a motion for the final reading?
It's a rate increase.
So,
No, he doesn't. He
Okay.
wants to wait till next month and we'll do all of them.
so there's a motion on the floor to wait on the third reading.
Wait until the July meeting.
And you just want it to read for the final passage.
So a motion on the floor there,
Second.
roll call please.
Aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded that? I didn't second the motion for this.
Okay. All right. Item number 14. Discussion continuing for city administrator position. Cynthia, was there anything new that there's a couple of new things.
Yeah, I think so. So, we had gotten some sample contracts. So I just played around picking from one or the other. It's totally just proposed. Gave you some of our past info or outline, the, information from other communities. The draft of a city administrator, job description. A revised, city clerk treasurer, job description. What else is in here? A revised mayor chapter.
Put on the top of mayor, right now it's meant 8,000,
It's 8 currently, yes.
Yeah.
reduce it to 3,000.
I mean, again, that's just my pull out of the
Yep.
bag suggestion. And then if you do, want to establish this position, you would need to set up a chapter, setting up, again, looking at some other city examples. And then, beginning draft of a I think most cities with the city administrator do enter into a contract, employment contract agreement.
But is that enforceable? I mean, it seems like they do, for example, a 6-year, they can, what's the reason not to? You have a contract, but. Right, some other spreadsheet we had a few months ago. Contract, yes, but it seems like all these people were new, so it didn't seem like the contracts should even. Or it seemed like a wasted time.
Well, I think sometimes the contracts lay out some different benefits, different, treatment of that employee than the other employees,
Okay, I don't know about that angle, okay.
um,
Well, it's similar, football, college football coach has a contract and
Yeah,
it's to hopefully reflect the seriousness of the situation, the buy-in of the situation.
that's the.
Above and beyond just a shake of the hand, yeah, you're hired.
But isn't it also the dual purpose of this is what you're supposed to be doing, and if they don't do those things, it's grounds for termination. So we can say, this is your contract, you're not doing these things, so therefore we're going to let you go. It's like you can use it both directions,
right.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
that makes
Yeah.
more sense.
There's a termination section in here. There's a severance section in here. Again, resignations, it spells out some of the things. And I think maybe another reason that cities do it is because it is really a position that the city would prefer that they stay, the town they stay. It's hard to fill. It's a major leadership position in the city. And they're trying to keep them. And again, I did not send this to the attorney because I didn't know how serious you guys are. Certainly, if you decide, yes, this is something that we want to proceed with, then the attorney will need to be involved to, come up with and review some of these documents. I guess my biggest question at this point is, you certainly know Joanne and I's feeling that we support this. We think it's a good thing for many different reasons. Maybe we need to hear why you're not convinced, and maybe just understand, or is there something else that we need to provide or do, or someone else to come in and talk, or just drop it, right? I mean, that's kind of where we're at.
We've been talking about, I went back and looked, since December, we've been talking about it, so it's been more than 6 months now since we've been talking about this. And for planning purposes, we really need to know what direction we're going, and I see Convergent Energy on the horizon. They're seriously wanting to break ground this year when another company, North Coast, with the same time frame that wants to come in. We have a lot of need, and it's just stretching our resources really thin, and even Cynthia like taking a vacation. We want her to be able to take vacations or her permanent vacation at some point.
Well, and if you decide to go with this route, it's not gonna be somebody you're gonna hire in a month, it's gonna be a process to get our documentation and are you gonna use a search company, or just advertise? To find the right person and get them here, it's gonna take some time, and you're looking at the wonderful budget time starting again in 6 months from now. Ideally, if this position is gonna happen, it'd be great to have them participating in the new budget process.
It's time to decide. There's no motion on the floor tonight.
Right.
But
Get some direction.
we need direction to know whether there should be a motion on the July agenda,
What are
so
the
that
neg-
we know where we're headed.
Right, it's just really, what are the negatives?
Cost or
Cost,
not,
yeah.
probably the two biggest ones.
Uncertainty of the person reporting, I guess.
They have to accept EFT and not snail mail for their bills. But the actual answer would be cost and high turnover, because your concern is. You would have a lot of people, either young people that are inexperienced, because the more experienced people are looking at it, look at the spreadsheet, like Ankeny, Cedar Falls, the larger communities. That pay the city manager significantly. Where they view this as a stepping stone, you're getting something that's not qualified. I think those are two, probably the biggest concerns, and then cost, that's another $100,000, we're not quibbling, not, trying to say it's not worth the time discussing, but we're talking about reducing postage by $500 to save some rates, where we're now looking at including insurance and stuff. Someone that's probably gonna add, $150,000 to payroll on a yearly basis, potentially with base pay, IFRS, insurance. I think there was a section about riding automobile or compensation of some kind. So it's a serious commitment to someone financially. And you want to make sure if you are getting that person paid, they want to stick around. This turnover always costs money. And I think there's maybe a concern with if you are getting new people that maybe grants that, Joanne was bringing up earlier, we're missing a lot of those opportunities that we're getting someone that maybe is coming out of the college, with some rose colored glasses on how the world works, and then they can get a rude awakening when they get here. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, I just think that might be some of the concerns. I'm open to the city manager. I just think it's,
I think a lot of the expense of it would actually be covered in some of the engineering costs that we're doing today.
I think there'd be cost savings with the mayor's salary, with, they come on, I retire, if you can hire a clerk that doesn't have 20 years of experience, that's gonna go down. I think some engineering costs are gonna go down. Hopefully that they know how to write some grants and maybe get some additional so. You're right, it is a big every year commitment then. We do have it in the 25 budget, we didn't put it in there. But I think it's gonna be a net difference, not totally an addition. Right. And I think if you say no now, then it's no, but I think you're gonna be having the same discussion a year from now. Especially when I retire and you're hiring a new clerk. Or if you get a mayor that's elected that is a full-time job. Joanne and I are doing a lot of the city administrator, and Shane, a lot of the city administrator tasks. And if these two key positions change, you're gonna be hurting until you can make that transition. And to me, it's my obligation to try and look at what I think is best for the city. And if you look at all the other cities our size, and especially ones with our kind of growth, we are the unusual. And, the mayor's position is every 2 years. You could have a drastic change often with
Right,
that.
that's another advantage, when the city administrator who takes on some of the roles of the mayor, it's a more consistent.
Professionally trained,
Right. That's so staff isn't faced with, oh gosh, every 2 years we might have a new mayor, and their philosophy is being be totally opposite. City administrator helps bridge that gap of, here's the consistency. And leads the way.
I see there's two paths coming up on Fork on the road. And that fork is you're retiring, are retiring obviously, so option A. We find a city clerk that has similar knowledge of you that you have, and you have to train them on the intricacies that you've developed here. There's a cost to that, and then we continue on with being stretched thin. Option two is a city administrator / city clerk, but. I'm still hesitant on the city clerk and the city administrator for the reason being that. Who would we be interested in? You have this amount of information that has to be passed out to either a city clerk. Or a city administrator and a city clerk, right? You're gone 3 years down the road. And.
Hello.
I'm just bringing that up, we talked about that a couple meetings ago. They have to be able to work together, if one can't figure it out. The city administrator has to have an answer, well, we'll just figure it out as we go, that's gonna fit. If we don't have a strong enough city administrator under option B. That we find a city clerk that is learning, that's still good, that's one of that city we need a city administrator. That can handle what we're doing.
I think what you're saying is we're gonna end up with two newbies. You're gonna end up with a clerk that's probably not as seasoned as you are and doesn't have that knowledge base. And you're gonna end up with an administrator that has the same issue because we can't afford someone with
Well,
more.
that's your choice. And
I'm
that's
saying
part
I
of
want a
the
city
hiring process.
administrator.
But I'm
that has
just saying that at the
experience.
rate that we're gonna hire at, that's probably what we're gonna end up with.
I don't
Okay,
think that
don't you
90 to
think?
100,000 is remotely close. I'm not gonna say 200 plus, no, but. The city administrator with experience and has been doing it, and this is their track record, right?
Well, and remember, okay, so somebody graduates in city administration. I mean, they've had training for 4 years. Maybe they haven't had experience at another city, but they're not coming into it with no professional training, you know?
Something I have talked about, that's part of the hiring process. Just because we're looking doesn't mean we have to hire a candidate.
If you don't
We-
find somebody,
We talked about some cities have had open houses for the entire community and all the candidates come. And the residents and the council and everybody talks with them and interacts and gets a feel for how they would fit into that community. So it is a much more involved process than what we go through today. In hiring. Cause yes, it's very important to get the right fit if at all possible.
Like this summer elections, it's a big change.
Pardon?
It's a big change.
Big money, big change.
Yeah.
I can tell you that, Jason Raby, who was mayor here, he's now a city manager in Beloit, Kansas. And they had a search firm, looking for the candidate. And I can tell you that search firm called me to talk to me about, recommendation. I was probably on the phone with her close to an hour. I mean, it was a very long, detailed conversation about, things that he had done and, different things. And they really do involve, looking at and researching the person. And then, like Joanne said, they did have open houses for 2 or 3 candidates. I forget now, it's been too long. They invited their chamber, and of course, their council and the different boards and commission. And then I think they had for the general public one too, So there is a whole process that at some point you just have to have faith that you'll have enough information to make a good hire. But if you don't, there's ways, to get rid of to change the hire. Or if you don't find anybody, then you try it again in a couple of months, or you do something else, a different type of search or something, whether it's broader or more money or whatever.
I think I'm more concerned about if it doesn't go well and you have to get rid of someone. Then you're like, oh my gosh, we have to terminate them. We don't have then you go through 6 months without someone. Because you can't replace them.
And then you got a city clerk that is kind of a newbie.
That's what I'm saying.
City clerk is the same way.
So what's the alternative again?
I know.
You-
And we've gone through like a lot of clerks that were really not good fits, let me tell you that, and it's horrifying. Guys haven't been through that, but I have,
It's difficult for the
where
city.
they can't even do the budget correctly, where like it's bad. Cause there's a lot. And it's not normal bookkeeping stuff. So just because you have an accounting degree doesn't mean you can do this stuff. That makes sense, but. I think we're on the fence,
I think, I mean,
we don't do
I
something.
understand leaning towards and doing it as long as we leave ourselves with a little room to, you know, set and fire them if it's up, for
Mhm.
lack of better words. But that's for everybody. Look who was before Kevin, you know, and then that was a big difference when Kevin got here, you know, and
That was the conversation that Jason and I had. You know, he was trying to find a way to win every little obstacle with him. I said, Jason, let's fire him. He's pulling down, you know,
And you hope you maybe strike lightning in a bottle twice, because I think Kevin was excellent, exactly what we needed, great, and I hear him, we talked about jokes about how many people were trying to pull him away from us, so you try and find ways to. Maybe find that person that just wants to help out and stick around and isn't worried about making another 30 grand a year, or whatever the case.
Quality of life in Fairfax. Exactly.
Kevin lived in Melbourne. Lived in Melbourne.
Yeah.
I just think that Fairfax is growing, has enough going on. I just think you've gotten to the point where you need it. And I think it's a perfect timing coupled with my career choices. That it would be my strongest recommendation that I've made to this council for a long time, that this is something we should do, but I don't have a vote, you know.
Nor do I, but I also feel one of the things we're just not doing at all, but well, except casually, is economic development.
We're reactive.
We're reacting rather than being proactive, so.
And I think a good point to make is, and I don't know I don't remember, like the last two mayors we had, including Joanne, retired, and guarantee gave Jason a lot of latitude on what he was able to do. And,
Bill's still working on it. He's still working with us, he was, yeah. I've been in the city since 08, and the mayor was not full time, but pretty much.
so you're not always gonna get that.
What's gonna.
And next year's election year again already.
So. Like you said, you know, there's certain people that want to run for mayor that are totally gonna throw us all in prison, so. Yeah,
You heard it
I won't
here,
say his
folks.
name, like.
I mean, you can get a great
That's the
mayor.
problem, is you might end up with one of those individuals, unlikely, I spend large sum of money against it, but, you want to have someone in place, I get why I want to have someone in place to kind of mitigate that, or still has the experience, you don't come in with someone. The people that I don't want on city council, I'll maybe put it that way, the people who just have an axe to grind. And we've had people who run, who just have an axe to grind, and they want one thing. And then if they don't get that thing, they're totally disinterested. Now you have, and so
And there's
that's why you want potentially someone as a payroll position. Because they aren't every 2 years. or-
Right, you're right. Exactly.
And if it blows up in our face, then we have to look at going back to some sort of position where we have a senior clerk and then maybe another one to take on some of those responsibilities or that specializes in.
I do have a question on those lines. So if your position goes. Like this other position assumes a lot of your responsibilities, is Tina, is she interested in taking? Your position if it doesn't have all those responsibilities, or she just content to stay where she's?
She does not want the clerk, the major clerk responsibilities,
At all.
the treasurer and clerk. I think what we're talking about, the administrator taking is really the non-clerk task.
That she said I'm on.
I've been doing.
Out of need.
But no, Tina or Stacy, neither one
Okay,
want to do. The
I just was
clerk
like, if you're
duties.
just, if your job description changes, does that change her interest?
Cause it really-
And she has, when she first started, for like 6 months, you know, we went through stuff, and she's my second set of eyes on payroll and, you know, different things. So she's even went through some training for the annual reports, and that's when she realized, this is not for me. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's not gonna change her mind. I've tried to work on her a couple of days.
Okay, well, I just, you know, so we don't,
Right.
think, you know, well.
Yeah,
we're
that's not,
confusing
like you
people.
saying, what's the ultimate cost? That would be a reduction in the overall labor cost, but even we paying that senior clerk position as much. Be right. I think entering in, you used the word entering in that cycle again in past city clerks. I think that
I've
makes
seen
sense.
some doozies.
Yeah, and makes sense, and
Yeah, we've had to terminate.
I think whichever route, as I use option A or option B. You gotta look for the right person, and the pay is up there. But it's not, you want a person who's successful with Fairfax. You look for the right person, the right fit.
I think that's part of why we would probably consider using a headhunter, because I'm not saying our hiring committees are. You know, not capable of doing it, but when you're making this kind of commitment. Like you said, when they were doing their due diligence with Mayor Brady, I'm sure you weren't the only hour-long phone call. we
Yeah.
had.
I'm sure not.
And they can also recommend from their experience what salary level we should be looking at. And sometimes they have candidates that they're aware of that are wanting to make a change, that are just sitting there waiting for the right opportunity. So they could give us guidance in that area based off of our size and our needs, what they would recommend.
Joanne and I discussed whether you'd be interested in having a couple of those communities come and do a not communities, consultants, do a presentation about, you know, what their fees would be, what their services are, you know, how the process works. I mean, that is kind of a part of this that we haven't heard from yet. But we didn't feel like setting that up until you're off the fence.
I think we just don't wanna make that
Save
decision,
fees.
fortunately.
Well, this decision might make itself if you postpone too long. So,
And I think I've mentioned this before, maybe in the outline, you know, another reason that I see a good timing when I'm considering leaving is I would vacate the office, physical office downstairs, and go to the area where Joanne, has a desk, maybe make some small modifications for the clerk out there. And the administrator would go in that office, you know, and again, if you've got that change already made before you hire the new person, you know, it's seamless then. That seems like a small thing, but it's not.
so we need some guidance for the July meeting. We would love to put in an action item on the July agenda where you say yay or nay to the position. That doesn't mean you're committing to a salary or
Say yea or nay to
Start the process to be a city manager.
the city manager or. Well, or a city clerk, that's another option, just a city clerk, and continue with how we're doing now.
I don't see how we can continue with what we're doing
Yeah, no,
now.
I
I
understand.
don't see that path at all.
That's-
I
It's
really
certainly
don't.
not the path that's right for Fairfax, I don't think. Or sustainable.
Just the city clerk, you're saying?
Right.
Well, so let's say you retired tomorrow, and then we were, you know, well, hoping to interview before, but what are the odds of getting someone, so all the extra, I mean, you mentioned city clerk duties that you're doing beyond. What are the odds of actually getting someone in that's gonna be somewhat capable of doing all that extra stuff you're.
I would say very slim. I know that, Swisher, I mean, that isn't a full-time position, so you kind of get a different clientele. But I think they had one applicant.
For a city clerk.
Mhm. What I hear is cities that are looking are not getting a flood of even applicants alone, applicants with experience.
I think that position is probably experiencing what do they call it, the silver tsunami.
Yeah,
A lot of the city clerks that's what they've been doing for many, many years, and now they're retiring, and you don't get as many new, younger people interested in starting that career path, so.
I mean, I think we're lucky to be near Cedar Rapids with a bigger labor pool, so maybe that would help. But. And like I said, even if you found a mini me, it's still not working well now. So even if you found somebody with all of my skills, they're still going to be stretched too far and not have time for economic development, or, you still have the same problems.
Right, you're not solving
The
anything.
problem is like, even if you would try to do like a full-time mayor, if they switch every 2 years, you don't have any
Right, it's still an
continuity.
elected official.
Well, and it's,
So they might not have any training, they might not,
right,
they might just come in and sit around and twiddle their thumbs all day and they don't,
Say, for example, we're talking about conversion.
cause you don't get to pick that.
You look at 76th Avenue, if you go down past Nordstrom's and all that, some of that commercial and industrial development. You can get someone who wants to do that, say down Lefferts Road, and then the next mayor, if we went to full time, it's like, no, I like, barns and open sky, and I don't want any of that, and then they promptly dump on any developments possibly in the works. And then all you do is alienate people or companies who want to develop, because it's like
Every 2 years, yeah.
yeah. And I respect the whole democratic and voting, the residents voting who's the mayor. But truly, the residents don't know what so if you were going to a full-time mayor and having the residents choose instead of the council who knows how the city works. They don't know what would be involved or what skills are required, let alone what skills that person has. Unfortunately, some people go to the polls and just don't have any information. That's not what would be best for Fairfax.
Great. 100%.
Okay, so we'll think about it and
We'll put it on the July agenda.
we don't have
taking
to
a
take
strong
action
move.
if it's on there, I'm just saying.
Okay,
They can put it on there, but we don't have to take
Well,
action.
I would just say now, since I'm not gonna be here in July, I'm in favor of probably starting that process of putting that together.
Doing
Not that
something.
that's going to. Later.
Yep.
giving us some guidance. Thank you.
Woo-hoo!
I guess that was the clerk's comment. We jumped over mayor's comment. Just some quick things. Want to publicly thank all of the city staff that were involved with the cleanup day. All the extra work involved with that. I think it was very successful. We had several people bring glass. They were prepared. We handed out flyers. They seemed excited about it.
We had 155 addresses show up with 159 loads. 4 of them had a second load. And I'll give you more of a report when I see some invoices come, so I can show you, costs and stuff.
So I think it went well. Thanks city staff that was involved with that. Also thanking city staff for all the extra work that they put in for the USA Days weekend. That was greatly appreciated. Also, I had already sent you an email giving you a heads up on the July agenda. We're expecting to have a discussion on conversion and give them some preliminary guidance on what a development agreement might look like and what their asks might be.
So
Heads up on that.
I'm seeing you're presenting a big discussion. Is there a way you could send something out rather than just the Friday beforehand? You know, if we got a lot of material to get updated and to learn about whatever it is. Might be. Maybe I read too much and try to dig in it, but
But what,
rather than getting it on a Friday afternoon and we have a meeting on Tuesday.
They're gonna
If
expect
this
us to
topic,
make any kind of.
you're talking this topic is a big
Well-
topic.
it won't be the formal development agreement, it's just a preliminary. Getting the feel from the council as to whether they would even consider certain things.
They want to get direction with the understanding that it's not final and it can change. But so they just want staff to say, okay, this is kind of what we've done in the past and this is what we'll do again, and then we're gonna go to council and very early, very quickly.
Is this the company that crushes them down smaller to where the next? No.
Oh, I should have brought up the.
Oh, yeah.
The hell of people.
Okay.
Yeah, we have, down on my desk, we have some samples of the fuel pellets, what they look like.
This is the company that supplies fuel for the University of Iowa.
Yes.
So that's
Yeah,
why they
let's
want to
stop
be.
calling them by their name, because they're all the exact same practically. We'll just say fuel pellets, windmill, and whatever else. Yeah.
Joanne and I have a, conference call Wednesday afternoon with the bonding attorney and Maggie. Based on the fact that, you know, we did participate in a tax abatement for that property. We had to do that if they were gonna participate in the high quality jobs through the IEDA. We did it at the minimum amount, in the Iowa code of the phase-in schedule. When we met with them, TIP incentives came up, so we are already scheduling some information sessions to try to gather some information to give you how that works.
So yes, Tom, if it's something that's gonna be very involved and require some decisions. Friday afternoon is not the best time to get that out to you.
If there's someone up here looking for direction. Think a few days, it might. Kind of hard to grind on.
We'll do the best we can, yeah.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
4th of July, that snow week, so. I think we're meeting in city staff on Tuesday morning
Next week,
next week. So the second, and I've got a list of things to go through and what I'll try to do then by the end of the day, Tuesday or Wednesday morning, shoot it over. Sure. So then.
5 minutes of the meeting.
Council, at least it'd be something to look at.
Yeah, to start to understand what they may ask for and what we've done with the current convergence.
Right, we had the
We have-
property tax abatement, right?
Well,
Yeah.
the one there.
Trevero region. Oh, okay, comparable.
Yeah, because I would assume they're gonna want similar and ask for more.
We didn't do anything for Trevero region.
sewer water.
Yeah, we extended the utility to that
section.
Those did.
Yeah, that's two of the things that will be discussed in seven, how we, or 76 Avenue.
What?
Is that
What we're gonna do with that.
I don't.
Willing to do with that.
We've never done it.
I remember the.
Those are gonna be-
grocery store, they wanted all that. My stuff.
They mentioned, yeah, I
Okay,
mentioned that we haven't done that.
Well, one of the reasons we haven't done it is because the city has extended the water and sewer a lot of the time, so we have got debt that we have to pay with the tip.
Yeah.
A lot of cities, they won't participate in that, but then the tip that's generated, they give to the contractors to pay those costs, so it's kind of the same thing, it's just that they would pay it up front. We wouldn't be bonding. They're interested in speed and all that, you know, how soon it can get in, and so there's lots of nuances.
Drag your feet and now, I want it now.
that's right,
That's, so then they're gonna push.
For 2 years.
They're gonna push.
exactly. Yep, they wanna break ground this, yet this year. So-
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so Cynthia, did you have anything else under clerk's? comment?
Just, be in Ames tomorrow afternoon teaching budget and then end of fiscal year on Friday and all kinds of fun time for me.
Oh, while you're teaching that budget class, you just scan that.
Oh, those are on newbies. Those are the brand new ones that don't budget. What's a budget? It's an academy where I was last
Oh.
week. That's where you want me to scan, because those are the ones that.
Scan away.
All right, entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Thank you.
Dane, I got an email saying we